Tomato. I mean, paper full of powder mildew. What me I gonna do? Clear away. Oh, you are telling me to clear away. What do you think me and your friend?
No, Mas Kelso. May I tell you to use Clearway from Newport, Fersan, Jamaica. It is a contact and systemic fungicide with protective and curative actions against a wide range of fungal diseases such as anthracnose and early blight in tomato, purple blotch in onion, late blight in potato, leaf spot in peanut, powdery mildew in pepper, and much more.
Thanks, Miss Letty. You're really my friend. You're coming Newport Fersan rep right now. Can't forget that name there. Clearway.
Clearway. Farmers, get your supply today. Another premium product from Newport Fersan Jamaica Limited.
Fersan in the Field, Real Issues, Real Solutions is brought to you by Newport Fersan Jamaica Limited, the first on the land.
Alright, so on this Tuesday, January 2, 2024, we welcome for the first Fersan in the Field for the brand new year. And of course, it's Fersan in the Field, Real Issues, Real Solutions. Murphy Gooden, agronomist and technical sales consultant. Good morning, Murphy, and a happy new year to you. How are you?
Good morning, Althea. Happy New Year. I'm doing excellent. And you?
I am great. Thank you so very much for asking. We say good morning and a happy new year as well to Chavan, Lyttle, product development agronomist. Good morning, Chavan. How are you?
Good morning, Althea. I am giving thanks as usual. And you?
I'm just excited to have you both on because there is quite a bit for us to talk about, and so we're going to jump right in. Murphy, I'm starting this off with you. Our farmers would have been growing quite a bit of ginger. We would have been enjoying the benefits of that because, of course, we added it to our soil over Christmas. And I'm very happy that you're touching on ginger production and improving yields in ginger production. And so the first thing that I think we need to establish, in fact, I'm going to start not with Murphy. I'm going to start with you, Chavan, because I want to touch a little bit on the whole issue of the global ginger industry and the key factors driving this global demand. And then I'll move to Chavan, to Murphy, to talk about the issues that are affecting ginger production. But I just want to get a little bit of the background in terms of what we have been dealing with overall internationally with ginger and what is happening in the local industry here. So I'll kick off with you, Chavan.
Yes, ma'am, Althea. Thanks for that question. So the global ginger market was valued at around US 2.9 billion in 2022. The last year, year before last, 2.9 billion US dollars. That's the value of the global ginger market. And what the experts have said is that they expect that the annual growth rate of the ginger market to increase by about 7.94% between the period of 2023 and 2028. Right? So what is driving this demand? So we're talking about persons and consumers becoming more aware of the health benefits associated with consuming ginger and ginger derivatives. So what that means is that you have a lot more persons purchasing products that contain ginger or derivatives from ginger. So we see that the pharmaceutical industry has been using a lot more of the ginger in their products, as well as the cosmetics industry. But most importantly, the food and beverages industry have been championing the utilization of ginger in their products, leading to why we're seeing such a huge demand for this product. Now, when we look at Jamaica, or look at the context in Jamaica, what is it that we're seeing? So, Jamaica was once regarded as one of the world's top 3 producers of ginger. So back in the 1930s and between 1930s and 1960s, we were among the top 3 in the world where ginger production is concerned. Not only ginger production, but also talking about the quality of ginger that we're getting. So our ginger had a unique chemical composition that the specialty markets wanted to utilize. Unfortunately, in the 1990s, exports of ginger from Jamaica declined significantly, and this was due to several issues, chief of which was the impact of disease affecting our farmers in the main growing region. The government, however, through collaborations with RADA, the research arm of the ministry, SRC and FAO, among other industry stakeholders, they made significant efforts and strides to revitalize our local industry. So what we had out of this collaboration was the ginger expansion program, as well as the ginger value chain strategy and action plan. And what these activities would have done is it would have driven an increase in the production of ginger locally. So what we saw is that there was a gradual increase in the quantity of ginger produced, moving from a mere 200 tons in the early 2000s to 979 tons in 2001. Now let's put this in context on the global scale. So globally, India and Nigeria, they produce around 60% of the world's total ginger consumption. And what does that 60% look like? I'm talking about 1,788 tons of ginger being produced by India. And in Nigeria, we're talking about 691,000 tons. And this was back in 2018. For that year, Jamaica would have produced only around 645 tons. So you see that there's a large disparity between what Jamaica is doing and what the world is doing. So there's vast room for improvement where ginger production is concerned. And if you look at the exports from Jamaica now, what you can see is that we've gradually increased the exports, moving from 82 tons in 2018 to 122 tons in 2021. So what this is showing is that there is a continued increase in the demand for the local ginger that is produced on the international scale, and couple that with the uniqueness of the flavor that you get from the Jamaican ginger, as well as the quality of our ginger, it creates a ripe atmosphere, the opportunity for our farmers to capitalize on this. So that is one of the reasons why we want to fortify our farmers with information so that they can benefit from this opportunity which exists.
Excellent. And of course, the opportunity it is for us to not only provide this background information, but also to take a look at some of the factors that really have been dogging our farmers and how it is that we're going to find solutions or offer solutions to them. So let me go then to Murphy. Thank you very much, Chavan. Murphy, what are some of the issues impacting ginger production overall here in Jamaica?
Yes, Doctor. Now, when we analyze the issues, we can basically put these issues under two different areas. So basically take a look at the production, and we also take a look at productivity. Now, when we analyze the production aspect, we're basically looking at the successive failures of our farmers who are growing ginger. So because they basically failed over and over with planting the crop, a lot of farmers are discouraged at planting ginger. So what we're finding happening is that persons who used to do an acre, they basically scale down to half an acre, while others who used to do half an acre, they basically scale down to a square. So this has basically affected the production aspect of ginger. And the other aspect out there is the productivity aspect. Now, the productivity is a very wide aspect I want to take a look at. The first aspect of the productivity aspect is the nutritional productivity. So because a lot of farmers, they're not paying attention to having a balanced nutritional program, what we've observed within the field is that there are a lot of nutrient deficiencies that are coming out. Now, for example, some of these nutrient deficiencies that I have personally seen would have basically included the potassium deficiency, the magnesium deficiency, manganese, and even calcium. Now, if we should pay attention to what these would mean on the productivity aspect, take for example calcium. Now, calcium is responsible for the formation of the cell wall of plants. So if calcium is low or is not available for the plant, what you'll find happening is that these plants will be even more susceptible to diseases which affect ginger. All right. Now, another aspect, and it's closely related to the nutritional aspect, is the soil pH. Now, with the soil pH, oftentimes you might even have some of these nutrients being available, but because the pH is off, they are not readily accessible to the plant. So, oftentimes we see our farmers, they'll have a section of land. No matter what they attempt to plant on it, those crops will just not catch, so as to speak. Now, this oftentimes speaks to the soil pH. Now, another aspect or another issue of productivity within the island is that we have the lack of good agricultural practices or even good managerial practices. That basically speaks to one, when a farmer is selecting where to plant the ginger, the site selection, they don't pay attention to, for example, the soil type. Now, ginger, being the crop that it is, it tends to grow best in more clay loam or even sandy loam soil. Now, that's one aspect. Another one would have been land prep. So with our land prep, you find that a lot of farmers don't pay attention to drainage. The ginger is one of those crops out there that does not like too much water, right? And as we know, there are a lot of issues associated with having too much water on the soil or waterlogged soil. Now, if the soil is too dry, that can also pose a threat. So having the excellent land prep is key. That's a major key when it comes down to the productivity aspect. And also, we also take a look at the selection of excellent planting material. We don't want our farmers to just go all the way to another parish, get some planting material and planting it without knowing the back history. Is this planting material healthy? And just to touch back a little bit, we spoke a little bit about the nutritional aspect. Just want to make clear that with a lot of persons, a lot of farmers, they basically go and they'll get a fertilizer. It's important that they know exactly what they're putting onto the soil. So all of this basically affects the productivity of the soil, and we want our farmers to pay key attention to. So the two aspects, production and productivity, these are the issues that our farmers are facing out there.
All right. So the issues are many, but of course the important thing is that we are here to provide the information with your assistance. We're on the break, so we're going to clear commercials and then we're going to come back. When we come back, we want to take a look, Murphy, at issues including good agricultural management practices and what the farmers should be doing to engage in same, and we will have participation from a guest as well. So farmers, please, if you're into ginger production and as well, please feel free to do so.
Introducing the Keyplex line of products distributed by Newport Fersan Jamaica Limited. Keyplex Jumpstart to get your plants off to the right start. KP 120 to promote root growth and plant development. 350 DP, chock full of micronutrients to maintain your crops. KP 625 with micronutrients for your citrus trees, other fruit trees, nut trees, and corn. Plus Blossom Formula with chelated calcium, chelated magnesium, and boron for a wide variety of row and tree crops. The Keyplex line of products distributed by Newport Fersan Jamaica Limited, the first on the land.
Inside the feature Fersan in the Field, Real Issues, Real Solutions. This morning we have joining us Murphy Gooden, agronomist and technical sales consultant, and Chavan, Lyttle, product development agronomist. We have heard a little bit about the history of ginger production, not just here in Jamaica but worldwide. Chavan provided us with that information, and of course it is a growing industry because there is increased interest in the use of ginger, whether it is for cosmetic purposes or it is for the manufacturing of our drinks, whatever it is happening. there's a lot more movement towards getting ginger on our shelves, in our homes, in whatever way we can. And then, of course, there are factors that have been identified by Murphy Gooden that impact the overall production of ginger. And Murphy, I'm going to come back to you, because when we take a look at issues such as crop nutrition and other areas, we recognize how it is that we can be challenged, but of course you're here to provide the solutions as well. So I want to touch a little bit on the whole issue of productivity and how it is that good agricultural management practices will impact or does impact overall productivity. Murphy?
Yes, out there. No, yeah, man. So now, as it relates to the productivity of ginger, when we look at the managerial practices, now one of the things is that we find that a lot of persons who plant ginger, they don't really practice crop rotation, and having that schedule, having that rotation, they're basically giving this. Well, as what most farmers would say, they're giving the land a break, right? So what you will find is that persons who plant ginger, for example, this time around, they tend to plant it within the same area again. Now, what we are encouraging based on studies, whenever you plant ginger, you want to at least give that particular area at least a 2 to 3 years break. That means that within these 2 to 3 years, you would have to basically be planting other crops, right? So that's one of the managerial practices that we want our farmers to pay key note attention to. Another aspect that we want to pay attention to is proper scouting, right? So when we basically speak of scouting, we're speaking and looking at certain issues that exist within the field. We want to pick up those issues as soon as we can. We don't want to leave leave that wide gap that will basically allow those issues to even get out of control, right? Now, another managerial practice I want to encourage, and as mentioned earlier, we want to pay attention to proper planting material. We cannot stress that as much as we would want out here. So we want our farmers to know where they're getting their ginger from, know the state that the ginger was in before the planting materials were basically selected. So we want to pay attention to those managerial practices. Right? And another one that we want to pay attention to is when you're basically getting the site ready, or basically looking at where to plant the ginger. Now you want to look at the soil type. Now ginger basically grows, as mentioned, within clay loam or sandy loam soils, and you'll find that if they are basically planted within a too sandy or too clay area, those can basically lead to tremendous issues that we do not want. Since we know that farming is a business, we want to treat it as such. But these managerial practices are the ones that we need to follow out there.
Right, very important for those practices to be followed. And let me now bring in a guest, and we're going to be hearing from a gentleman who is a ginger farmer, Anthony Thompson, out of Horse Garden, St. James. Mr. Thompson, let me just greet you well and wish you a happy new year. How are you, sir?
I'm fine. I'm saying happy new year to you as well.
Mr. Thompson, you're a little bit low.
Okay,
go ahead and let me hear well I can hear you. Much better. Much better. Happy New Year to you.
Okay, that's the same to you as well.
Good. Thank you so very much. I'm going to take the story that you have to share with us, but let me just greet a caller who is online, Richard, who is a baker in the baking industry. So I imagine, Richard, that you use ginger in your production as well. Richard? All right, we have lost him. We do apologize for that. I do hope you call us back. But Mr. Thompson, thank you so very much for taking the time to spend with us this morning and to share your experience growing ginger. How long have you been in ginger production?
I've been doing ginger for 5 seasons now.
5 seasons?
Yes,
and
5
why
seasons.
ginger? Why did you decide to go down this road? I'm sure you could have planted anything, but you opted for ginger.
Yes, but I grew to like it. I like the crop, and I see where it can be a good mass production for me more easier work. So that's one of the main reasons I go into it. More production, more product. So I go for ginger.
And of course, a high demand.
Yes, high demand.
High demand for the product, which means that you can make good money from it. Now you've been, I hear, using Newport Fersan products for years, but when did you really forge a personal working relationship with the technical team?
I heard about these guys was coming through when looking at ginger, so I was curious to meet them. So when I meet Mr. Murphy and I take him to my farm, he was amazing. So it was amazing
in terms of the work that you've been doing and your overall production.
Yes.
All right, excellent. And what has been your experience since you have this direct working relationship with them, with Murphy and the rest of the team?
It has been good enough because Mr. Murphy always comes around, keep on checking on us and checking at the product that we're using, the fertilizer, and making sure that production is coming well and the growth. So Mr. Murphy is always around checking up on us.
But tell us a little bit about any challenge that you might have had in ginger production. What are some of the issues that you have faced? Mr. Thompson? I know, because you're on the farm, so that's all right. We understand you were talking to someone there. But I was asking you, what are some of the challenges that you would have faced in the past with your ginger production?
I don't really face much challenges because we always move the soil, and once you move to the good soil with the ginger and use the right fertilizer and chemicals, then that's where. But this time around, I've been doing 5 seasons, so I discovered the booster line of fertility, so I changed that completely and used the booster line, and it was way massive than all the other seasons that I've been getting.
Right. So in actuality, what you are doing, you are practicing the rotation that Murphy mentioned earlier, and now you've added the booster line. Let me bring Murphy in. Murphy, why did you suggest the booster line for Mr. Thompson's farm?
All right, so when you basically analyze the components of the booster line or what is made up of the booster line, at the time of meeting Mr. Thompson, he was using a more traditional blend, namely the 15-5-35 along with the 14-28-14. Now, because the booster line is so well rounded with basically compensating for certain nutrients, which would have been sulfur, magnesium, calcium, humic acid, iron, boron, and zinc. That fertilizer it's a well-rounded fertilizer, and if Mr. Thompson was basically making just to quote some figures, so if he was basically making 7,000 pounds with planting 1,000 ginger plants or ginger rhizomes, using the booster line, you basically see where that number has basically been increased, right? So that same booster line, if he had basically planted 1,000 pounds, it would have basically resulted in 12,000 pounds within a square land. So basically, to put it like within a more perspective for our listeners, this would have basically equated. So if Mr. Thompson was doing a full acre, that would have now equated to not 12,000 but 120,000 pounds of ginger instead of not 7,000 but 70,000. So you're basically seeing a big difference in night and day for this farmer out there.
That is amazing. And of course, Mr. Thompson, increased yield means that it's more money in your pocket.
More.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes, ma'am. I'm hearing. I said way more production. That fertilizer is a very great discovery to the ginger. It bear it faster, it quicker, and it yield way more. That fertilizer.
All right, so I would imagine then that based on what you're saying, you're going to stick with the product and stick with ginger.
Yes, I'm going to stick with ginger, and I'm going to stick with the booster line for now.
All right. Well, we certainly want to wish you all the best, and perhaps at some other point in time we'll check in with you to see how you're doing. Thank you so very much. Blessings to you, your family, and your workers for this brand new year.
Thanks for having me, and the same to you for the new year. Thank you very much.
All right, bless you. Thank you so very much. And that was Mr. Anthony Thompson, and he is a farmer, ginger farmer, using the booster line. Let me bring Chavan back in. Chavan, you've been quiet, but that is by design. So we're going to bring you in so you can chat with us a little bit. Are there any pests and diseases that our farmers should be mindful of when cultivating ginger?
That's an excellent question out here. And the short answer to that is absolutely. Right? So there are several insect pests that can impact the operations of our farmers when they're cultivating ginger. So when we talk about insect pests, we're talking about like our worms and caterpillars. And one such worm or caterpillar is the fall armyworm. So what we really want our farmers to do, and Murphy mentioned it earlier when he was talking about the good agricultural practices or management practices, right? Want you to scout and monitor your field. So want you to monitor your field for the caterpillar damage. So we want our farmers to be looking out for chewing damage. And this is especially important in the seedling stage of the crop, as sometimes the worms can cut the emerging tillers. Those are the little shoots that are coming up from the eyes of the ginger. They can cut the tillers and cause severe crop damage. Also want our farmers to pay attention to aphid damage, right? So aphids, these are your greenish, yellowish, or brownish looking bugs that often congregate in the emerging leaf. So that's the leaf at the heart of that's growing up at the heart of the plant. And what these are some sucking insects, right? And they're oftentimes a vector for plant viruses. So it's very important that you're monitoring the field and keeping the population of your aphids very low, because they can transmit virus that affects the ginger, right? They also can cause yellowing and distortion of your leaves. So it's important that we're observing and monitoring our field. Another insect pest that is important is the rhizome scale, right? And this is especially important for persons who store ginger rhizome, right? So when it can cause you to lose the rhizomes when you're storing them. So what it does in the initial stage of infestation, you'll see the white colored scales that are scattered on the rhizomes, and then they'll eventually congregate near the growing buds. And when the infestation is severe, what eventually happens is that these buds will shrivel and your entire rhizome dies. So enough with the insect pests. I want to also...
All right, don't move on to beyond the insect pests. We'll get to the diseases right after we complete this break. So let us clear commercials and come back.
Fersan in the field.
Right, so we're into the final segment of this, our first program for the brand new year 2024, and I have with me Murphy Gooden and Chavan Lyttle. And before we took the break, Chavan was telling us about some of the insect pests that impact ginger production: worms, caterpillars, aphids, leaf roller, rhizome fly, and he was just about to move to the diseases. So tell us about the diseases, Chavan.
One of the challenges with ginger production in Jamaica is, and Murphy mentioned it earlier, right? So you have farmers, it's a common practice for farmers to cultivate ginger on the same plot of land year after year. And in addition to doing this, they oftentimes, farmers are getting planting materials, say from previous crops, or they're purchasing planting materials from other farmers. So what this type of environment results in, it tends to result in a build-up of the disease-causing organisms, which are then destructive to your future crops. So just to emphasize as well how important it is for us to practice crop rotation. So we're not planting the same crop season after season on the same plot of land. So we have to rotate the crop and change the crop that is being grown on that plot of land. So when we talk about diseases that are important in ginger production that can cause significant economic loss, right? There are two ones that I'm going to highlight today in today's program. The
Before you highlight them, though, we have one of our regular callers online, Alvin, and he has a couple of questions about ginger production. Good morning and a happy new year to you, Alvin. Good to have you on.
Same to you, sir. And that morning that passed, that was on your show here. Miss Altia, there is so many things in the agricultural sector as a production that I really want to get into. I love that ginger there, Irish potato, planting gungo peas, coffee, banana, cabbage, lettuce, carrot, and I really want to have a contact with these people here that you have on your program that they can get me those type of product.
Sure.
You know, that Absolutely. When I plant, I can maximize it.
So we have your contact number, so we can share that with the team from Newport Fersan. But do you have any questions for the two agronomists specifically about ginger production, since you have them on?
No, not at this moment here, not until I reach forward with the ginger still. For I know the rhizome rot is a problem around.
Oh.
You know, so
is it a huge problem where you are? Because you're in Portland.
Yeah. But I try a couple ginger up in the hills here, and I see them really go through still, but, you know, little difficult with them still. And one of the things that I really want to ask you to press the Minister of Agriculture is to identify all those level land in Jamaica that we can put them into production this year, tomorrow, today. You know, all the land them, for many of the hillside land, we cannot go up there with a machine, and we can only plant like lumber tree up there. So the hillside land them, we need them to put in all the fruits and all the lumber tree them and get the road them ready for the land them. There's so much I want to say to you still. I don't really have the time. So I hope that we can have a connection one morning that we can flush out some of these challenges that we have and get this country move forward, not only to PR but to manifest the earth. For if we can go to the soil and till the soil, we will come through Miss Alti and the two person that you have there, the two guests you have there. So I'm looking forward this year for a better connection with you on the station. For many times when I call the station, I cannot get you. You know, it gives me
it's rough, Alvin, but we commit to ensuring that we engage you. Whenever you can't get us, we try to get you. Thank you so very much. And, of course, we look forward to engaging you throughout the year. All right, so, Chavan, Alvin is out of Portland. Do we see a lot of ginger production in his neck of the woods?
There is a lot of ginger production in that side, but more so you tend to see more in areas such as St. Thomas, parts of Manchester. Those are the areas that you tend to see more ginger production in.
All right. So just before we took Alvin's call, you were focusing on the diseases, and we touched on rhizome rot, which is a major disease. In fact, I know that ginger production in sections of Clarendon and Manchester was severely impacted because of rhizome rot.
Absolutely, and that is one of the disease of importance that I'm going to be discussing this morning. Right, so the two that I wanted to focus on was the Phylloxera leaf spot as well as the ginger rhizome rot complex. Right, so for the Phylloxera leaf spot, it can cause significant economic loss if it's not properly managed early on. So what happens is that it causes the plants to lose foliage, especially early on in the crop cycle. So it starts as water-soaked spots on the leaf, which eventually turn into dark brown soaks with a yellow halo. So as the lesions enlarge, and you tend to see parts of the leaf dying out. And eventually, if it's not controlled, all the leaves will die, and once the leaf die, there is nothing to provide food for the rhizome, so the plant is going to fail. And one other thing that causes disease to spread is the rain splashes in the soil. So the pathogen is in the soil, and when it splashes on the leaf, it spreads it from one area to the next. Now, when we talk about the ginger rhizome rat complex, this is a major issue in ginger production. And what the rhizome complex is, the rhizome rat complex is, it's basically a combination of several pathogens that gives that characteristic yellowing of the leaves and rotting of your fungus. So the pathogenic fungi that cause it include your Pisium and your Fusarium. You also have a bacteria, the Ralstonia, and in some cases you have a nematode complex which also combines, and that's what makes the problem so difficult to control, because most of these pathogens, they're soil borne, right? Meaning that they live in the soil and they can live in the soil for a long period of time. So when you get rhizome rat complex, what do you generally see? Right? You generally see yellowing of the leaves with wilting. Sometimes you might see white thread-like structures on your rhizomes, and when you see this, it's generally indicating that it's a fungal infection. Other times, you might see a oozing of white substance from the rotted rhizome. And when you see that oozing, so if you cut the rhizome and you see it oozing any white milky substance, that usually indicates that it's bacterial in nature. So it's important that there are several things that are important if you want for us to manage the ginger rhizome rat. And Murphy highlighted some of them. So when you talk about planting material and selecting healthy planting material, right? So we have to ensure that the farmers know the history of the planting material that they're using, and that they're using high quality planting material, healthy planting material that is free from any of the pathogens that can cause the problems that affect the industry. You heard him mention about drainage as well. So most of these being soil-borne means that whenever the area becomes moist or excessively wet, it creates a conducive environment for these pathogens to spread. So you want to ensure that the drainage in your field is very good, so that you don't have any water settling to allow the pathogens to get that environment spread to other sections of your field and cause massive losses, right? Okay. And also how you treat infected material and how you treat the harvested material. We want to ensure that if we identify material that is infected, that we are following proper phytosanitary procedures. So we don't want to
Which is really critical.
Extremely critical.
Let me say something now. I'm fast running out of time, and I know you haven't touched on preventative and corrective strategies yet. So I'm going to suggest that we do a part 2 of this. But before you leave us, Murphy, quickly tell us just a little bit more about the booster line, and then when you come back to us to continue this conversation about ginger production, we'll pick up on some of the other issues.
Yes, out here. All right. So just to give you a breakdown of the booster line, it basically consists of 3 different fertilizers, right? So the 3 different stages would have basically included 1, the start booster, 2, the vegetative booster, and 3, the yield booster. The start booster has an NPK formulation of 15-15-15 plus sulfur, plus magnesium, plus iron, plus boron, plus zinc. The vegetative booster, on the other hand, has a NPK formulation of 20-10-10. That is also plus calcium, plus humic acid, right? And also the yield booster, on the other hand, has a formulation of 16-5-20 plus sulfur, plus magnesium, plus iron, plus boron, plus zinc. Just to quickly add, the reason why we've included those within the booster line is because based on soil tests done right across the island, we've realized that there are certain nutrients that are low. And one specifically that I've seen on the western side of Jamaica is magnesium, right? So the booster line is aimed at compensating for that loss. So it's basically an improved blend. Yes, out here.
All right. So just before, one quick question. I don't know if you or Chavan want to take this because I have only 20 seconds for you to answer it. It says, Happy New Year, Miss Matt. Does ginger perform well in a hay-grown environment? I'm a no-till farmer, but I'm exploring growing ginger in hay.
Egg?
Hay, Hay.
Well, to be honest, I'm not familiar with that location. I don't know if Mr. Lyttle is.
The question
right.
I want.
You'll do a little bit of research on that for me and come back. Next time you come back to talk about ginger, we'll talk about it. Clearly, quite a bit for us to explore, quite a bit more, and so we look forward to part 2 of this conversation with you both. Thank you. A great way to start the year with you.
Thanks, Althea.
All right, take care. Murphy, Gooden, and Chavan. Lyttle, let's just take a quick word from them, and then we close out this show.
Fersan in the Field, Real Issues, Real Solutions was brought to you by Newport Fersan Jamaica Limited, the first on the land.